this will be a little bit more of a red team focused talk. If people aren't familiar with that terminology, that basically means more of the offensive side, talking about doing the scary hackery stuff that if done in real life could very well end you up, put you in jail and whatnot. So don't do unethical things. Use what you learned to do good stuff. Kind of remember that it's a little bit easy to think it's cool that you're creating this awesome botnet or some other less than ethical thing. But remember, there are other people on the other side of the internet that you are probably harming if you do unethical bad things. Next, please ask questions. I don't 100% know what I'm doing on this project. I could very well be making a mistake. If you ask questions, point out things that I'm missing, I can learn. My project gets advanced faster. Please ask questions. So, a little bit of a background. If you're new, I'm the president. I'm a junior in computer engineering. I use a lot of DuckDuckGo to figure out what I need to be doing, which is just Google, but better in my opinion. And I'm in way over my head, just so much of the time. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just Google a random error code, ask what I should do next. So you'll kind of get to share my adventure of getting stumped and bashing my head against the wall and using DuckDuckGo to try to figure out what I need to do. So, what is this particular project? If you guys aren't familiar, there's a site called Hack the Box. Basically, it has a bunch of challenges on there for you to learn and practice. I got an internship recently with RSM, which is a great company. I haven't really been able to do my internship yet because of the pandemic, but they were awesome enough to give me access to their rosta lab, which is a pro lab environment within Hack the Box. This is normally like, I think, $125 a month or something ridiculous. So I've been trying to take advantage of the fact that they've been giving it to me for free. So what is Rosta Lab? It is an entire corporate network, all modeled in virtual machines. So this means that I can go in there and fuck up and break something and not actually hurt people, and it's easily reset. It has a full corporate network, so you have a domain admin. It's mostly Windows. It's got a couple websites on there, and I've been working on this off and on since the fall. And now, to give you a warning, I have one of the 29 different flags. Just to give you a really good idea, I've been working on this since fall. I have 1 out of 29. I've been struggling a lot. And this presentation will kind of go over my struggle to get the second flag. Everyone tracking where we're at so far? No questions? Oh, Brandon joins the meeting. Welcome, Brandon. We're going over a project of mine on a website that I have access to because my internship got canceled with RSM. So, kind of what my current situation is I am outside of this corporate network, and I'm trying to figure out how to get into it. All that I have is I have the ability to send emails impersonating the HR manager. So if anyone knows, this very clearly screams phishing. Also, if you can see, the second flag is called the Fisherman's Dream. Flag names are always nice hints to what you need to be working towards. So phishing, I've heard about it, not really sure how to do it, so I went for it because what else was I supposed to do? So I sent a bunch of emails asking for people for their passwords. Nothing happened. So I sent more nicer emails asking for passwords, and nothing happened still. So that probably was 3 or 4 days of sending a bunch of random emails and no one responding to their passwords. Apparently, their fake users were not that dumb. So I had to take a step back. Oh, Brandon left. Bye, Brandon. I took a step back. Hackbach has a Discord server. So I went up there and I read some stuff. I just scrolled through everything and read, and the word, oh, Brandon came back. Making him feel super self-conscious now. Apparently, Outlook, which is the web client to send emails I have access to, has the ability to have read receipts. So now I can figure out if my emails have even been read by the bots. So I sent out a couple more emails, and apparently 2 of the fake users were actually reading my emails, one of which was Tammy, the intern. So I decided to start focusing on her. The other thing that kept on popping up was something called an HTA. Now, I have no idea what an HTA is. So I turned to my trusty tool, DuckDuckGo. Just typing in HTA and what are HTAs, and I got a lot of garbage. But after like 12 different searches, I find this nice article, which looks about what I'm going for. Malicious HTA is not just for spammers. With a nice eye patch smiley face. So I read that article, and apparently HTA stands for Hypertext Application, I believe. Reading through the article, some good quote is it gets launched by MS HTA, MS maybe Microsoft, still not sure. It's executable, and it's signed by Microsoft. So that means I have something that allows me to run code on my victim. Again, for people who just joined, don't do evil things. This is all within an approved environment. It allows me to call PowerShell and inject a payload directly into memory. That's interesting. Not really sure what injecting a payload directly into memory means yet, but it sounds evil. It requires a user, it prompts a user twice. First time to save, second time as a security warning, but it's signed by Microsoft, so most of the time people will click through. Does it have a legitimate purpose? Probably. I don't know. I really don't care about that right now. I am searching to try to compromise the lab machine, so I don't need to go into legitimate purposes. Maybe if I knew, I'd be able to solve this faster, but I can't figure out everything at once. So, I know what a HTA is. Let's fall back on the classes that I've taken. If anyone's taken CPRE 231, you've been exposed to a tool called Metasploit. Looking up Metasploit, they have an HTA payload or whatnot. So we'll try that. Also, if you have Python running on your machine, you're able to create a simple HTTP server with that. So now I can pop up a HTTP server that checks whether or not someone has clicked on my link and downloaded it. So I throw my Metasploit HTA file on there with a nice payload and all cool elite hackery stuff on there. And I send an email with a link to that server. And awesome, they downloaded it. I should be in. And then nothing else happens. So that was disappointing. I think we were probably in November. No, sorry. Yeah, we're probably in November or December right about now. And remember, I started this in August. So I've been working on this off and on for a lot. So I took a break because that was defeating. And then I came back. So I did some Googling. What other tools are like Metasploit? Apparently there's things called PowerShell Empire and Covenant. And Metasploit are all called C2, which stands for Command and Control. Basically, the idea behind these tools is you're able to have a bunch of different compromised computers that all phone back and can be controlled by your one server. So awesome. I did a lot of reading there. So we know that they downloaded it, but then who knows what happened. So into the troubleshooting aspect. So I figured out with a combination of a lot of Googling and looking at the code that was available, how do you make an HTA file that will be run? So I made a HTA with a different PowerShell that just pinged back. Just try to download a different file just to see if they ran my HTA file. And they downloaded it, and then it pinged back. So this was something really simple, just sort of a wget, try to download another web page from my Python web server. So I know at this point that I'm able to send an email with a link. They download the link to the HTA file, and then they run the HTA file. So why isn't my exploit working? So I have no idea why it isn't working. So my problem right now is that I can't see what my victim is doing. So at this point, I need to figure out how to make my own victim. That way I can play both the victim and the attacker to sort of troubleshoot my exploit. So from my knowledge of Rosta Labs, I know this is supposed to be a standard company, which means all up-to-date Windows 10 desktops. If you don't know, you're able to download a Windows 10 ISO file and create a virtual machine with VirtualBox if you have a decently powerful enough computer. So that took a little bit while, but I've had a little bit of experience in creating virtual machines. So I created a Windows virtual machine, and then I tried to infect it. And so I got my first click. It could be a problem. I hit OK. And I got a virus and threat protection warning. So that could be the problem. So just to make sure that that was actually the problem, I went in and turned it off. I tried it again, and voila! I got access to the desktop from my Kali box. At this point in time, I was trying to work with the Covenant C2. I have bounced back and forth a lot, and it's probably not super helpful that I have been doing that, but I can't make up my mind. Questions, comments so far? Thank you. Yeah, I learned that later, but I really wish I would have figured that out earlier. So as pointed out in chat, directing payloads directly into memory means that you don't have to worry about saving it to disk, which should dodge AV scanners. However, Microsoft has figured out about this, and they have EDR, which will check stuff as it is being downloaded, which is awesome. But there are tools available to get past that I have not yet been able to fully figure out how to use yet. So at this point, I switch over to my default. How do you get past Windows Defender? Because if they keep any lists, I want to be on all of them. Actually, I was surprised, not really surprisingly, this was not super helpful. Most people don't most articles aren't just like, how to be an evil hacker person are super easily found on like the first page of Google. Most of the things that popped up were actually people trying to figure out how to turn off Windows Defender so they could run stuff being labeled as malicious, which is super interesting. I think that was the top thing that popped up, that people really want to label things labeled as viruses, but I suppose that's life. So at this point, I reached reached out to the people who were way smarter than me. This would happen to be the people that I was supposed to work with at RSM. I asked them, hey, I'm trying to work through your guys' training, and I got no idea what to do. And I was pointed to the darkvortex.dev blog, which only has like 10 articles, I think, but it was super useful because it sort of taught me the vocabulary. And that's something that I've learned in this is when working on these security projects, knowing the right vocabulary to throw into Google is super useful because no one in the security profession is saying, here's how to get past Windows Defender. What they say to sound professional is AMSI evasion. So that's the technical term for Windows Defender or antivirus. So after learning a little bit of that, I was able to find a bunch of useful blogs, some RSS feeds, and Twitter feeds, and I've learned a lot from that. So I started to build and install tools to try to get past the antivirus. So I built a Python script to decode the obfuscation that was being created because when running a PowerShell code in an HTA file, it is converted into base64, the text. That way you can have the spaces in it, spaces and all the other things that are reserved characters and reserved things in HTA. It's all in base64, so that runs. But also Microsoft 8. Base64 is a null byte in between every byte. Not sure why. So I created a Python script to decode it, strip out the null bytes, allow me to edit it, re-encode it while adding back in the null bytes. Then I found this awesome tool by rosta called Threat Check. What this will do is it will run your file. This has to be run on Windows, so that was a problem for me on Mac. I had to use my virtual machine, but it'll run on Windows the first byte of your payload, then the first 2 bytes, and so on and so forth until antivirus triggers it. That way you'll be able to figure out the exact chunk of your payload that's causing antivirus to trigger, and you're going to be able to go in there and attempt to obfuscate it. And then, of course, that was a lot of work as well because I had no idea how to install or compile anything on Windows, let alone C#. So then I started using the dark vortex techniques, which involves set aliases and a bunch of the string obfuscation stuff. So you'd have like base64 encoded and then a bunch of adds. It basically is just terrible code to read. But because of antivirus looks for specific strings, that way you was able to get past it. So I made this presentation to be presented 2 weeks ago. Since then, I was able to get my HTA to run and download my second stage, or stage 1, as compared to stage 0 of my payload. And then nothing happened. So maybe if I give this presentation again in 2 or 3 weeks or next year, I'll actually have a ending to this PowerPoint. But I figured I would give an idea of what I've been working on in case other people are interested in the more red teaming side of it, / wanting to see someone else struggle. Ideally, other people are struggling as much as me and I'll give them, I don't know, encouragement. If you're not struggling as much as me, I really don't want to know. I gain comfort in thinking that I'm not alone in it. A couple things that I learned so far. Asking for help is incredibly important. I would have gotten nowhere if I hadn't asked RSM for help or looked at the Hack the Box Discord channel or stuff like that. I have in last years been super reticent, too proud to ask for help, and I've learned my lesson many times. Otherwise, persistence, taking good breaks, don't burn yourself out, or take stock of the situation. Enjoy your victories. Can be super defeating to not get anywhere. So once you get even a little bit in an inch, acknowledge that. And no, just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean you can't. You'll just have to learn as you go. Does anyone have any questions or requests? I can go into more detail over any of the things I talked about in this PowerPoint. I just didn't really want to spend 20 minutes on the minutia of PowerShell obfuscation because I don't know how much people would actually care about that. A bunch of crickets.
Since you have Mac, Nick, have you ever thought of using an app called Alfred that I mean, you can do a lot of searching and things, and also really easy to help you open DuckDuckGo and all that good stuff?
You said it was Alfred. What did it do?
Alfred, it's an app for Mac that's similar to Finder, but when you can use it to open things, it'll open DuckDuckGo and stuff, a bunch of different things. It's a Mac app. I think somebody posted the link in the chat, but yeah, I used it a couple years ago when I was on Mac, and it seemed to work out pretty well. Yeah,
I might have to take a look at that. Oh yeah, no, that'll definitely be helpful. So I suppose it replaces Spotlight? Yeah. Okay, I see one person who's interested in doing PowerShell obfuscation. I can go over that. Well, actually here. Get rid of my PowerPoint. Anyone else have things? I can talk about my lab setup too, or command and control servers and whatnot. But yeah, thanks for pointing me to Alfred. And then a couple notes before I sort of break down into chatting and whatnot, or me going over PowerShell obfuscation is, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I'm not sure if that was just to the cabinet. If you guys are not aware of what the Cyber Fast Track is, it's basically a big hacking challenge meant for high schoolers and college students. They sent us an email and gave us 250 codes to their training program. We don't have 250 members, so if anyone has friends that are interested in getting a free code to their training program, I think it's normally $100 or something, or you are interested, shoot me an email or message on Slack, and I will be able to get you free codes for that. I think it's going to be a great chance to, I think it's very much meant to start at basically 1+1 type of thing and work your way up. So it's good fun if you sort of know what you're doing. You'll speed through the first 3 lessons and then get to some hard stuff. Or if you have no idea what you're doing, I think it'll be a super easy off or on ramp. And also, now that we have these codes, if anyone is interested, we could try to organize a weekend when we all try to work our way through these training together. All right. I will make myself a note and see if I can organize that. And we can figure out a good time to do that together.
Nick, what does it say on the slide that says that visitor day? It's on the slide.
Yeah, that was my next thing.
Okay.
So we were contacted from here. I'm going to finish writing this down or else I'll forget it. Okay. So we were contacted by Vicky, who is the advisor for a bunch of computeries. I think some cyberies now too. And there are new students, so these would be seniors in high school who are looking at coming in. And the college is looking to put together sort of a virtual visitor day, sort of for current students in Cyber E, or just in the Cyber E area, to sort of give a talk about what the curriculum is like, what it's like being a student, answer questions. I mean, I'm sure everyone remembers when they were like, what, 17, 18, didn't know what they wanted to do. So I think some of the students are just going to pick our session because it sounds cool, and kind of our job would be to explain what it's like being a Cyber E, Computer E, looking at cyber, MIS student looking at cyber, you know, someone who would come to this club kind of thing. So I'm looking for volunteers who'd be willing to help on the 22nd. I'll jump back to the cyber fast track codes. I'm looking for volunteers to help on the 22nd. I will also throw a poll up for that. But it'd be a super great chance to, you know, influence young minds. You know, chance to feel smart. You have information and knowledge that they want to know about. So, you know, it's a great chance to both help out the community, feel good about yourself, and chance to show off. If anyone's willing to give up an hour of their, I believe that's a Saturday night.
Actually, it's a Monday, Nick, and I should be free. I'll verify the calendar again, but I believe it's Monday. Yeah, it's Monday the 22nd.
Yep.
Perfect. I don't have any cards on Monday, so that should work out fine.
And I will figure out sort of a PowerPoint or something. Ideally, they have a bunch of questions and we're able to riff off of those. Jumping back up to the cyber fast track codes. Evan, if you're familiar, are you familiar with the cyber fast track? Okay, so they have a training program, part of their way that they make money. I think it's $100, $125. Basically a full course on how to do every single problem they might propose that they sell for $100, $125. And we have 250 free codes for this, which means we have way more than members and way more than people who actually come to our meetings. So I will attempt to get a list of people to send out codes to. If you have friends, I don't have any experience with like setting up a website or something that automatically emails you out a code, but I will attempt to throw something together. Or if we just have small enough people interested in doing it, you can all message me on Slack and I can start sending out codes to people to do this free training. Perfect. We were also considering trying to figure out if we could get together in, I don't know, a Slack channel or a WebEx meeting or a Zoom meeting or on Discord or something, and all work our way through it together, try to have some sort of camaraderie during this pandemic. But awesome. So if we're able to find, I don't know, 4 or 5 people who are all able to meet at the same time, I would love to do that. I love just doing anything that involves other people and not just staring at a lecture. So that's all of my things that I've planned. I believe we had some people who were, or was it just Brandon? talking about my lab setup or how I did PowerShell obfuscation. Do you have a preference? Because I can riff on that right now. The visitor day will be virtual. I think it's on WebEx, but it may be on Zoom because our university can't decide which one they're using. Does anyone else have a preference on saying PowerShell obfuscation versus? Okay, you have a vote for lab setup. I can't really show you my lab setup, but I can describe it. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else, but I can go over my lab setup. So, to kind of give you an idea of how Hack the Box works is they give you a VPN file that lets you get into a private network. That way you aren't sending a bunch of traffic over open internet. And I had originally just installed, what is it? Tunnelbic on my MacBook. And then I ran a VirtualBox of Parrot, which is like a different version of Kali. And why I chose a different version of Kali is because I had already tried Kali. It's different, so it might be better, so I tried it. I'm trying to pull it up. Okay, here we go. Awesome, update. So I have a thing of VirtualBox installed on my computer. The one thing I will say is you have to have not the cheapest computer. You don't have to have a super expensive one, but you have to have a couple different cores or cores that support multiple threads, and you have to have a decent bit of RAM. So I have my Parrot security installation, which is, I think, just a straight download from their website. They offer I think it's a VDK file, which is, you can come in here and import it once you've downloaded it, I think it is, or add a new one. If anyone is trying to do this and you have trouble, let me know. I'm happy to help troubleshoot and everything. So that's kind of my main thing. Then RSN gave me this 40 gig file that had another Windows VM in it. I've done nothing with it. And then I have two victims here. I have a Windows XP that I was able to find a activation code on the internet for. I haven't done much with that, but I think it'll be fun to try to go back and do all of the exploits that are well known. I haven't been patched because it's such an old operating system. Sort of practice. And then I have my victim / development Windows machine, which I just have Virtual Studio Code, I think it is, which lets me download tools from GitHub and then compile those. And then I have a Windows environment to run stuff in. This was the threat check tool that I use that let me check to see what part of my script, my HTA script was actually triggering the antivirus. And then do a lot of stuff from the terminal here. So I originally said I was just doing the VPN on my laptop. The problem is my laptop isn't always on. It's not always connected to internet. And apparently, if you sign on and off a bunch of times, they'll give you a new IP address. This is problematic when you have compromised computers on the lab environment trying to phone home, and your IP address changes, and you're not able, so they're trying to phone home to a different address. So I got a Raspberry Pi. I think this is 2 GB worth of RAM. It's a Raspberry Pi 4. Set up SSH Pi. So I set up my Raspberry Pi for SSH sessions. I have my SSH key installed on it, so I can just type that, voila. So I also have a, so here, so I use tmux. I've just been using this. Can I remember how to do it? Yeah. So tmux lets you run stuff while you're not logged in and save it. So I have 3 different screens right here. This bottom one right here is for running random stuff in. And then this one right here is where I run my Python web server. Let's see. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to open up a new Firefox. HTTP at Pi. I have Pi as a proxy in my computer, so it knows for what IP address it's supposed to go to. Continue, and you'll see it popped up right here. So you see that my local IP address, 68.102, got the root directory, so I can see activity on my, whatchamacallit here, my server. And then Control B, switch over here. So here is my Empire command and control. I'll exit and you guys can see. So this is basically a different type of Metasploit. It's a little bit more advanced functions in some areas. So this is the command line interface. I also installed Starkiller. Okay, open that up here. So Starkiller is sort of a remote GUI for Empire, which lets me look at the listeners. Am I glossing over anything that people don't know what they are? Because like if you've taken 231, like the listener would be like the thing that it phones home to. You'll have your stagers. This is the things that'll actually infect your victim computer. And then this will create an agent in this case, which lets you send commands, which is sort of an interpreter session, if you're familiar from 231. So this is kind of what my lab setup is as of right now. I'm sure it will evolve as I actually figure out more what I'm doing. I have the only other things that really matter are I have a proxy server on my Pi. So if I go to the IP address of the lab I have access to, rather than going out to the real internet, it'll get proxied through the VPN. And now I can send emails. Questions, comments? People fall asleep at their keyboard.
No, I was trying to take it all in.
Yeah, I realize this goes a little fast, and it'd be super helpful if people interrupted me and asked questions. Because I've been drowning in this. This is something I've been working on in a lot of my free time. So, it's if you're trying to explain programming to someone and you just gloss over what an if statement is, because that's what you've been doing. 99% of the population say I have no idea what you just said. So I really don't want to be in that position, because I know there's going to be so much I don't know. So let's sort of pause here, wait for someone to have a question or tell me to move on.
Is there any other way we can set up a lab like this without having to get a Raspberry Pi?
So the problem that the Raspberry Pi solves for me is that I was given a new IP address. So my Raspberry Pi is always on, so it's always connected. So I will never get a new IP address. Unless you're in a situation where you're remoting into a lab through a VPN and you get a new IP address from your VPN, just having the connection on your computer should be fine.
Could we connect to the Iowa State the Iowa State VPN and just work through it like that, or?
I would caution you from working through Iowa State because it's gonna look suspicious.
Okay.
Also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, I think you joined a little late. This lab costs $125 a month. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I have free access because RSM felt a little bit bad about canceling the internship, basically.
And who's RSM? I'm sorry.
RSM is a consulting firm that I got an internship with. So they do pen testing. Gave a presentation a couple weeks ago, and they'll give a presentation in 2 weeks again. Great company. The team is great. We've had a couple of our members go and work there. So I see there is a question about my current. Am I going to be ActiveBox? My current plans for this lab is to continue doing what I've been doing. So here is my list of flags. Here's the list of ones that I've done. I'm hoping to get all of them. This might take me the entire year, to be honest. My current plans for this particular flag is I have two options at this point. I'm going to have to either troubleshoot to figure out why the second stage would have downloaded but not deployed. So this probably means trying to simulate it on my victim computer that I'm allowed to see, or not allowed, like I have access to figure out if antivirus is triggering again, which is probably the correct move. I have a bad habit of jumping from thing to thing to thing. The other thing I was looking at was trying to choose a different payload type. So can I figure out how to execute a DLL, dynamically linked library, which is basically just like a raw executable raw code on a remote computer and call it through PowerShell? Those are my plans as of now. If you have suggestions, I would love to hear them. I suppose. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're using physical devices like old computers and whatnot, there's definitely advantage and disadvantage to that. I've never done it. You probably want to get like a switch or something. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of those situation where it's about bouncing back and forth between whether or not it's worth trying to learn it all at once or just take the easy option. The problem with my computer is it's a good computer, but the system sees 4 cores, and it has to have at least 2 to run my operating system. So I only have 2 cores so at max I can get 2 things running at once. And I only have so much RAM as well. So at most I can run my parrot box and a victim, but I can't run more than that. But if you have a bunch of different computers, like there's no... Yeah. I'm also going to look up what Ubiquiti is. Yeah, the wireless network and stuff, you got to be careful that your stuff doesn't leak out. Some idiot doesn't decide to join your network or something and get infected, or if you're running some sort of botnet or something. So we're approaching 6. Does anyone have any more questions or comments?
Do we have somebody lined up to come speak next week, Nick?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Just gonna say, I got some people lined up that would be willing to come speak to the MIS club, but they could also come speak at this club as well. So one of the folks is the CISO over at NTT Security, and then got another person out of those 3 people that is also a director over infrastructure and networking and all that good stuff over Grinnell Mutual. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the schedule right now.
Okay.
Also, that's something I should throw out. If you guys are interested in like who is coming to speak, let me know. Like, I have a rough schedule. I just try not to announce stuff.
Yeah, and one of these 3 people, Nick, I'm personally related to that would be willing to come and speak. So, and they've been in the industry for a good hot minute since like the early 2000s.
So here is what we have currently.
Okay.
This, unless people are really interested in playing a cybersecurity role-playing game, might get bumped because I have 2 more people who are interested in coming to present. Just got an email from Doug like yesterday about someone in healthcare, I think, who's interested in coming to present. And then I also am in contact with someone who is I don't remember his title. He's in charge of doing the controls security for some parts of Flint Hills, I believe. So if you guys aren't familiar with controls, those are the things that make sure that power plants stay on, electric, transformers don't explode, the chlorine that purifies drinking water doesn't, SCADAs, ICSs. Chlorine that purifies drinking water doesn't kill you because they put in too much. So I've been really interested in it recently because I've been reading up on the Stuxnet cyber weapons that the US and Israel created to destroy a nuclear weapons development facility in Iran. If you guys aren't familiar with that, they used cyber weapons to destroy stuff rather than physical weapons. Really cool. And then some of the stuff that Russia has been doing in the Ukraine and Eastern Europe, just basically destroying the internet. They're taking so much stuff down. Both really cool subjects. If people are interested in them, let me know. I can send you books and resources. So yeah, I don't think we have open spaces at this point, unless, yeah, the break-in at Florida. That was pretty bad. If people aren't familiar, I think they all used one password for their Microsoft Teams account or their Microsoft Remote Desktop account. So the system should not be connected to the internet normally. And definitely not from remote, like changing stuff. So someone just found out the password, logged in, and tried to like quadruple the chlorine or something. One of those things where like you can actually kill people if you take it too far. So tried to say that at the beginning of the presentation too. I doubt it was someone who's doing it for shits and giggles, but you never know. Yeah, the Ukraine system has been knocked out a couple of times, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see your comment there, Brandon. So, does anyone have any more questions? Like, I'd love to sit here and chat about this, but it's a little odd to be the only person chatting and trying to read comments that just pop up every now and again.